So this video is predominantly going to be just the first parts of converting clothing and getting it into BodyShop, because that is the hardest challenge when you're first starting out, is seeing some type of finished product within BodyShop. In my opinion, that's the hardest. Everything else after that is like smooth sailing. First things you're gonna need, and I'll list them down in the description: Sims 4 Studio, and that's for extracting the mesh and textures. You will need a blender. You will need Milkshape. You'll also need the appropriate plugins for Milkshape. You will need The Sims 2, that's a given, and you will need access to BodyShop, as well as morphs and meshes. So first thing that you'll need is to find a mesh you like. Maxis Match CC World on Tumblr is a great resource for all types of content. My suggestion, if you're just starting out and you've never, done meshing or anything like that before, would be to get something that's not skin tight or it's not painted on. I actually keep up multiple folders. I keep my meshes, which are linked below, my bases, and then I have my mesh that I'm going to play with. Now, I've already started on this one, but I'm going to restart. I usually keep my saved Sims open just because that's where, I'm going to end up putting my projects. The mesh toolkit, which is listed below as well. So I actually set up my workshop. It's a mess, but I tried to sort it by what I have, what's my work in progress folders, any tools that I use. If I, need shoes for like a full body outfit, I have different types available readily. We're going to open up Sims 4 Studio, and from there we're going to go to my projects, and we're going to navigate to the workshop folder. I'm going to go to my clothing, and I'm going to open up the Sims 4 file itself. This is the mesh, and here are my textures. We're going to go to meshes, export mesh, and I'm going to name it Hugo. You can name it whatever you want. While that's doing its thing, I'm going to export the texture and save that. Normally I name it Hugo as well. So we no longer need Sims file share. I'm going to open this up. You can do this through Photoshop, GIMP, whatever. I just do it through Paint 3D because it's just easier for me. I'm like an old lady, so don't mind. So we are going to want to make this 1024 by 1024. And I like to bring this down, and I'll save it as a bitmap file. We are basically set up to start. Let's go click on the little blender icon here. For our Hugo mesh, one of the first things is this is not the appropriate form for a sim in Sims 2 building. It's actually going to be more difficult for you to keep him with these 45-degree angles. So, because obviously Sims 2, when you're mapping those, they T-pose. So what we need to do is open up your rig, click on the rig here, and we want to see the black. Now, if you've got it selected, you're going to right click on his shoulder joint, go over here, XYZ Euler, 44 degrees. Yeah, I'm that nitpicky. And over here, same thing, but we're going to do negative 44, 9 degrees forward. Now from here, what I'll do is I'll check the mesh. There's 3 channels. I think that's what they're called. We're just looking at the outline. This is not the full mesh. You can see here as it highlights, it's missing the ends of his sweater. And the end of one sweater is here, and the other end is right here. So the important part is extracting them all together. So I'm going to hold down my shift button, and I'm going to click on the little triangle funnel thing. Now I have the whole mesh selected, excluding his torso, head. His arms will come with it. Now making sure that these are all selected. Again, you may just have one channel. You may have channels that you don't need. It's best to check these. In this case, I do need all of it, and I can't go without the arms. So now that I have all three selected, I'm going to go to File, Export, Wavefront Object. Now from here, the only thing I'm going to do in this area for my export is my selection only. By selecting this, it will not carry over the head or the legs or anything that we have not selected. And then smooth groups. The rest, just leave it alone. And then export object. And then we are done with Blender. So now we have our 3D object and whatever this file is, which can be ignored. We're now going to open up Milkshape. So we're going to go to File, Import Wavefront Object, and we're going to open up the Hugo file. We did it! Sorry. So you can scroll to kind of move in. To be honest, this all just looks like one thing to me. I mean, obviously I can see that the ends are right here. Now, you may find it easier just to go ahead and click on the groups and then delete your current material, new, assign, then you can go to none, and it can route to wherever you were supposed to be. Now I'm going to click on the bitmap file of why the bitmap is far superior. So when you're mapping your texture, if you've made it into a square, it's going to be half the size, right? So now you have to multiply the Y factor by 2. So what I've done is clicked on scale 2.0 in this part specifically, and then hit the S button. Now it's the same size. And we want to map it directly above where the actual texture is. So I've locked my X, and I'm just going to hit move and drag it up. Now you can fit selection and just kind of make sure that you're like in the right spot. So for him, maybe somewhere around here. I don't want to align it where you can see this is the end and the beginning of the hands or the skin and the end of the shirt. Same with up here. So again, you may have extra, and if you want, you can kind of remap this. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so we have mapped our texture, and oh, much better. Look at that, a solid piece, and I can see his skin. Okay, now I have my Milkshape already kind of set up, so I would suggest that you may need some tutorials, and if you have questions, of course, you can leave a comment down below. I like to leave the wireframe overlay. I like to have it as textured first of all. That way I can see, number one, the pattern that I've selected, or the texture I've selected, plus, you know, the invisible areas technically, because I don't have a skin attached. If I'm later on when I've added in other channels like the Sims skin or maybe a different accessory or something, I'll change it to colored groups. In this case, because I only have one group, it's going to be one color. So we can just leave it at this because it's a little bit easier to see. And then I do like the wireframe overlay. Now you can see over here, I have one that's just the wireframe overlay. So we've got our texture now. We've got our, we've got it in here. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to zoom in, and all I've done is hit the select button, dragging it over, right click, frame selection. And I'm just going to take all of this at the last vertice. I'm not going to go any higher yet. And I'm going to hit the delete button. His arm. He doesn't have any skin down here. And again, I'm going to get his other arm right here. Now, Another thing I like to do is if they're facing the left or the right, you could change your projection. If you want 3D like this, if you want to face the front like this, you can look at the back, left, right, top, bottom, blah, blah, blah. I like to check his armholes and just be sure there's like no extra skin. This might look hard to read, but you can kind of get a better idea as well over here. We look good. So this is a clean cut of the mesh. So what I prefer to do is export this as, and again, this is the Sims Resource Workshop object plugin. You will need this. I'll put a link in the description. You're going to export it as a WSO object, and then from there, I usually name this as no skin. This just means it's my base. So I'm gonna save that. In this case, yes, I want to replace it. It's the same thing, it doesn't matter. So now we can go ahead and do the actual meshing part. And also, since we've saved it as a WSO object, it should ideally hold this texture placement so we don't have to do it all over again. Model has been modified. Do you want to save? No. We've already saved it by exporting as an object. So now I'm going to go to File, Import, Sims 2 Unimesh, Import v4.09, not the other one. Let me go back. There are two options in here. Excuse me. Data split import v4.09 and this one. Always this one. Always this one. Nothing else. Anyway. So we're going to go into Workshop. I keep my bases within my Workshop. I like to keep everything together. So in my bases, I need a male top naked. So I've got it, it's labeled here as AM top naked. We're going to open. Create blend groups. This would be if you want your morphs visible already. If you want to manually do your morph for the project, these would be a great base to go off of for moving and scaling the belly and whatnot. I'm not going to do that. I just want the base. I want the fit model. So I'm going to say no. Some skin weights do not total 100%. Do you want these corrected? Yes, always. Okay, so we have our male top mesh, and to move your mesh around in the window, you would hold down Control and then click and drag. Just FYI. So we have our male base. Now we need to bring back our mesh, our clothing mesh. So I'm going to go to Import TSRW object, and from here I'm going to go back to where I was in Clothing, Hugo, no skin. Again, this is our ultimate base, and from this point on, I would suggest to save as you go, because if you mess up, you're not going to want to restart. That sucks. Okay, so now that I have two channels, two different bases, I am going to change my groups to colored groups, just so I can see a little bit better. Now you can see where the Sims 2 mesh kind of bleeds through the Sims 4 clothing. You have this pink and yellow. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and add back my material, new, assign, none, and Hugo. Okay, so now if you didn't want to look at this, you do have this option. So everything you see here is basically going to need to be removed. The only thing that we're going to end up keeping, and I'm just going to use this screen actually, the only thing that we're going to end up keeping will be the arms, and I personally like to keep the neck. I'm going to go ahead and start. What I will do is I'm going to remove the last vertice up. So from here, I'm going to hide my clothing. And you can see, let me go back over here. I'm doing this a lot slower than I normally do, so if I'm already fast, I apologize. Now you can see here, this is the end of the clothing mesh. And this right here is basically the last vertices that will not show. So you can see here that these vertices connect to these. So removing this set of vertices on the clothing is going to remove all of this. And I need this for my sim. Just to get started, I'm going to take out his arms. And we're going to back out a little bit so I can see again. So now we've kind of got his arms gone, which is good. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to go a little bit higher because honestly we don't need any of this. I'm going to delete his body. Delete, delete, delete everything. Now his neck area, it's a good place to come in here and take a look at this. If you see it, you can, you can see that his neck actually sticks out from the clothing. And if we were to add a head into here, you're going to notice that his head is going to come out as well. So once we define everything, we are going to have to move this neck piece out. Now, of course, his body also came out, but because it's going to be covered by the clothing itself, and it's not connected to anything visible, it's not much that we have to worry about. So I'm going to actually go ahead and delete everything that's not connected to this final ring. So we're going to select, delete, delete. There's a little piece right here. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete this, delete. I'm going to come up here and get his backside, delete. Okay, so now we're left with the final ring. Again, we may not even need this. I like to keep it just for my sake. So I'm going to bring back my outfit. And what I like to do is go ahead and there's two ways you can go about this. You can move it or scale it. So I like to leave the middle seam as is. It kind of just keeps, you know, if there's a seam here, it keeps it all aligned with where it is. So we're going to kind of get closer here to the neck. And what I like to do, I said, is we're going to pick every piece around the mesh, or excuse me, around the neck, and we're going to bring it forward. So that's basically everything around the neck. You can go one lower if you want. I am just holding the shift button to select these vertices. I may have some selected in the back. What you can do is hold down shift and right click and drag, and that'll remove any extras. One thing I also like to do is check to make sure that, and this is why I keep the wireframe overlay, I like to also check to make sure I didn't select any vertices outside of the mesh. And to avoid deselecting these, I usually turn off select. So most of my vertices, actually, we'll just do frame selection. This is probably a little bit harder to see, but most of my vertices are the same ones that I've selected on the, mesh. So I'm going to go ahead and, what you can do, X will move it right to left. Put that back, Control Z. Y moves it up and down. Z moves it forward and back. Obviously you saw I dragged the neck mesh with me. We don't want to do that. So groups, you're going to go to top, which is your Sims 4 skin, or Sims 2 skin. You're going to hide it, bring it back. That removes those vertices. So now if I'm dragging anything, I'm not going to drag anything. If I'm dragging anything, it's not going to include the neck. Now, to me, this looks a little funny just by the wide gap. Honestly, it probably matches a little bit more with this, but up here, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that. You know, you have to pull it out pretty far to cover the neck itself, and then you end up with something like this as well. When I'm doing this, I prefer to scale it. That way it moves evenly. So if I'm scaling it, I already had this set up because I messed up earlier. And I'm not going to tell you how I messed up. But for the scaling, you can select any type of option. I personally usually default to center of mass. Between center of mass and origin, these are my personal picks. So I'm going to actually move it out to cover the neck and move it forward to cover the neck. So once we start scaling, you'll see that the neck starts to disappear. This is also opening up because I selected the top vertices. That's going to cover my face, basically. It's going to cover the neck portion of the face mesh. Out, out, out. No more yellow. Now again, this portion here that's popped out, what we can do as well is just remove everything outside of those that we need. And move it back. Move it back just a little bit. Perfect. Nothing sticks out. Everything's back to where it was, just a little bit bigger. Now one thing I like to do, click off your vertices. I'm going to go ahead and put this back to frame all. And then I'm just going to look at the arms. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to kind of take, if you want, you can even zoom in just to kind of get a view. We can hide the skin itself. And we'll go up to this joint actually. So we're kind of going up high, but it kind of gives you an idea of where to stop. Because this is, clearly you can see there's not a lot of vertices in this area. There's just this batch right here. It's going to be easier to identify our the ones that we want to look at. So I'm going to get as close as possible to mimic what I've selected. And close enough. Okay. Now, with the top brought back in, I'm actually just going to drag this down first. So I'm going to switch over to Y. And we're going to move it down. You can kind of see here where my top is still sticking out, like kind of get an idea. Actually, get a better idea with this dude. So if we look at this part's sticking out, that's fine. We've got a little bit more room, but this will stick out if we put this in BodyShop. Top again is going to stick out, so he just needs to be widened a little bit all the way around. So I'm going to drag this down, and honestly, I'm going to reselect the front portion of the shirt top where we've had it, where we have it. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to select here. I don't want that. We'll leave that one. We'll select this, and we'll do the same over here. And I want this one. Okay, now I don't want the back part. So to counter that, first off, I'm going to change that. I'm going to put this as, just so I can see a little bit better, I'm going to go top view, frame all. Now you can kind of see like the entire like portion I've selected. And I'm going to go back to select, and I'm going to deselect the back half of vertices. And mind you, I've not done anything with this mesh other than just scaling it and moving it. Like, we still have a lot to go, but ideally it's best to get, in my opinion, it's best to get all of this done prior to any type of bone assignments, or if you've already completed whatever you move later, you may have to reassign the bones depending on how far it goes away from the original bone assignment. So I like to do it all before I've done anything. This part forward, I'm going to switch over to Z for forward. We're going to move this out. I think that's pretty good. And just FYI, you should be saving throughout all this. I've done this so many times, I just forget. And if I mess up, I just start over. It doesn't bother me, but it might bother you. So make sure we're saving. Okay, so that's pretty good. That looks better than what I had it. Alright, so let's save this. File, save as. I'm going to save this as a Milkshape 3D. And I'm going to save this as a whip, work in progress. You can save it however you like. You can put whip 1. This is your first save. That way if I mess up from this point, I know I'm fine at this point, but if I mess up from this point, I have this to fall back on. Okay, so let's actually pull up just these few vertices on top as well. Now, if I want to be particular about the vertices I select, I can hit Alt. Let's go big screen. I can press the Alt button and then click. If I don't want this vertice, I can press the Alt button and right click. Anything you do in here, you have to hold down the Alt button. See, I can select whatever. Again, if you want to select multiples, I've got these weird ones selected back here. If I want the rest of it, you have to hold down Shift and Alt. But let's not do that. Not right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just select these top vertices. We may even be able to get away with just these 4. So let's do that. But you can see I've got these 4 selected, but just to be sure, I'm going to do it the same way I did with the other arm, just so we know what we've got. I don't want to select the bottom because I don't want to move it up, so I'm going to Shift, right click, Shift, right click. So I'm going to use this arm. This is a good angle. I'm going to pull it up just a little bit. That's good. I mean, it's okay that it's like halfway covered or whatever. Again, we're gonna connect these vertices here in a minute. I just want to get the right shape for him, you know? So now we need to fix, in my opinion, we need to fix this portion of his arm. Just bring it back in just a little bit. Just a teensy bit. So I'm going to avoid this cuff portion, and I'm going to bring it in on these vertices down here. Avoiding the cuff. And again, I'm going to go ahead and do top, hide it, so I'm not pulling the arm as well. Coming back here, we're moving it up just a little bit. And then be mindful, you may have some stragglers back here that you didn't select. But he's fine. He looks okay. So we have a mesh that looks good. This is a really cute top. So now at this point, we need to start assigning bones. So to assign bones, we're going to go default. We're going to change this name, and we'll change it a few times from here. Group_base. This is how this will work for the Sims Workshop or Sims Resource Workshop. We're going to rename it. And we are going to delete this. And now we only have the clothing again. And we're going to export this as a TSRW object, much like we did in the beginning. This one I'm going to name Need Joints. And I'm going to save it. You can name it whatever you want. And I'm going to do Control Z to get my top back. Now if you want to, you can save as Whip 2. We are going to get a base mesh. Now I've done some tops like this. I think if you'd like, my Tumblr has personally has a great archive of stuff. So downloads page, you can use the Sims 2 defaults database. If you can recall something in your dominant Sims 2 folder, you can pull it as well. I'm just going to use what's on my site because personal plug. So I already actually had one in mind. It's going to be the layered turtleneck. Now this probably may mess up some bone assignments, but it more than likely will not. It's also lifted where the elbow's at, so that's going to complement the ridges we have here and over here. And it's the same length, right? Or close to the same length. So we've got some great bones to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to download the layered turtleneck. I try to like everyone's Sims file, share files, because, you know, it's just nice. Okay, so I'm going to close out of that. Up. And let's open up the mesh in SimPE. If yours isn't mapped to SimPE like mine is, you'll want to right click and then open with SimPE. This is what we are looking for. You want the GMDC, the geometric data container. This is predominantly your mesh. This is the house, the home of what you've created. Extract. And we are going to go to our workshop, clothing, Hugo. Now this is its GMDC name. I'm going to rename it to ref mesh for my reference mesh. We are going to use this for pretty much the rest of the, well, we're going to use this as our reference. Save it. We're done. We have our reference mesh. Bye-bye. Okay, now we're going to open up another Milkshape. Milkshape. Sorry, we've got BodyShop and Milkshape. We're going to do File, Import, Sims 2 Unimesh Import. And we're going to open up our reference mesh for Hugo. I do this every time. Create blend groups. Yes. This is going to be our reference mesh. So we want the pregnancy and the fat morph if both are available. So yes, we do want this for our reference mesh. So this is our base. This is our fat morph. Oh my god, you guys let me get away with this? Anyway. Oh my. And our pregnant morph. Oh, terrible. Terrible, you guys. So you see, it looks pretty similar. It's very close. Alright, so what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to delete the skin. And we're going to rename these. I'm going to rename it group base, because this was my base, right? The first one here is my fat morph, what's pictured. And I'm going to name it group _ fat. Number 2 is my pregnancy morph. We're going to name that group special. Make sure you hit rename. If you don't hit rename, it's not going to do anything for you. So file, export, TSRW object, and I'm going to name this ref mesh. Okay, we can close out of this now. So now we go to the mesh toolkit, double click on the application, auto tools for WSO, and we're going to auto assign bones. So WSO mesh to modify, which will be yours that you are working on currently, and we're going to go into workshop, clothing, Hugo, need joints, reference mesh. Now leave all this alone. Don't worry about that. Do assignments and save. Now, making sure we're in the right spot, has joints. Now our base has joints. Again, name it what works for you. Okay, we are done with the meshing toolkit for now, and let's go ahead and delete this. Import TSRW object, Hugo, has joints. We have a mesh that has joints. Let's go to the joints tab and take a look. Draw vertices with bone colors. Wow! Before he was white, now he's colorful and vibrant. We are now going to turn that off because you can't see anything with it. I'm going to make sure that my texture is still aligned. So I'm going to reassign to this mesh. So with your best abilities, you want to drag this around, make this a big screen, and get it so where you can see the vertices. This always takes a little bit of practice. I don't know, so bear with me. This is good enough. This will get me where I need to go. So what we're going to try to do here, I'm going to put on my colored group so I can see a little bit better. What we're going to try to do here is align vertices. Typically on a Sims 4 mesh, the clothing mesh here, it's going to have more vertices than your Sims 2 mesh. I can't see that top one, but that's fine. There we go. Okay. So ideally, we're going to have to maybe snap vertices together for the Sims 4 mesh and then merge the vertices as well. All right, so let's count it out. And MDP That's Me has a great YouTube video that kind of goes over this as well. I highly encourage you to watch their video so you can get kind of two perspectives on the process. Let's hide our top. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 vertices. And our top has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So essentially we're going to have to combine a couple of these top vertices. Now the way I like to do it personally is if they're in the middle like this, I like to snap these two together. So you have your arm vertice right down the middle of these two clothing vertices. Now it's important that you're careful because you could end up grabbing a vertice from the hand, and you can sometimes grab a vertice from behind you. So it's always best just to like double check every once in a while, because I have wasted so much time just dealing with messed up vertices. Alt click, Alt left click, and Shift Alt left click. Now you have the two vertices that we want to combine. Snap together. Now they share the same vertice. So we're going to unhide our top, and I'm going to select this, and I'm just going to select Control and take a little peek. I don't see any, but I still have them selected. So now I'm going to go back to Vertex, Vertex Data Merge. Now see, something happened here. I grabbed one behind me. So again, you gotta be careful. I didn't want that one. But just check your surroundings. You don't want to get a mesh into BodyShop and realize you have to start all over. That's just depressing. So Vertex Data Merge, better. Now I've merged the shirt, in this case, to the top, because the top is on top, it's dominant. But I don't really want that because I don't want the top to be the dominant player. So I'm going to hit Control-Z again and unmerge those. I'm going to move the top down. And mostly because I don't want the shirt to be disrupted when I have extra arm within here, right? I have extra with arm within here. If I pull back the shirt, it might look funny in the end. So again, top down, clothing is the dominant, Vertex, Data Merge. There, that looks good, in my opinion. Now I can't see this other one, but I can see this one. I'm going to go ahead and hide the top. And there's really only one for this one, so that's easy. We're going to Alt click, bring back the top, Alt Shift click, and now I have these two selected. Hopefully nothing else. Vertex, Vertex Data Merge. Perfect. So hide, bring this out, and click this one. Bring it back. This goes to this. Vertex Data Merge. Perfect. Perfect. So we are done with this arm. And yes, we have to do this to the other arm, but you kind of get the drift. I'll speed this up, or you can skip forward. Okay, we're good. Yay! Let's get it into BodyShop, see what's up. If you want, you can save it. I'll save as. I can show you my whips folder. I do not have any work, like any of these files, maybe one, and that's towards the end. I really am terrible about that. This is always going to be top. If it's a full body, it will be body. If it's just the legs, the bottom, it will be bottom. You have to have comments. Now you could steal it from one of the other meshes. I honestly have a list. And I keep this. I will see if I'll link you to these right here. We're going to paste this. The model name has to match. Opacity -1, number skin weights 3. You can leave that. Okay. No blend. Everyone names their meshes a little bit differently for the clothing. It might be bottom alpha if you are making a bottom. You may have no blend. You may have skirt. You may have outfit. I personally will use no blend for tops and outfits, or full body outfits, because that's how I name my clothing. So we're gonna add our comments. I don't have any morphs, so you can exclude that portion for now. Model name, no blend, copy paste. Before we go, top, no blend, skin, clothing. It looks good in my opinion. Except you see those glinting? Ooh. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna bring this back. Yeah, this one. We're gonna have it not facing the back, face the left, frame all. Ooh. Now I should mention I'm clicking a lot on hide, unhide. Every move you make, you can only undo so much. So that's important why you should save often, so that you don't, so like if you do make too many mistakes and you can't go back further, you have at least a backup from where you were. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and, I think I already did this, but unhide. And then I'm just gonna drag it back just a smidge. It's not gonna affect the bones too much, if at all. I just don't want it to look funny. We'll save as, I don't know. Well, let's save over WIP 3. I don't know what that was. Let's go ahead, file, export, Sims 2 Unimesh exporter. And I'm gonna name this Bright Night Sims Hugo Hugo AM. I put underscore GMDC. But this all tells me what it is. The creator of the original mesh, the mesh itself, the age group, if I decide to convert later, which I will do for another video, and then what it is in the grand scheme of it all. Save it. Now, you can choose to leave Milkshape up if you've clothing folder. So I'm gonna go to Hugo, and then we're gonna go into our meshes. So I have this in my bases and then my meshes folder. I'm going to pick the adult clothes mesh file. I'm going to copy that, and everything you need will be located in the description file of YouTube. The description portion of YouTube. Okay, so I am actually going to name my mesh temporarily as the beginning of this one, and then mesh, and then we're going to go ahead and open our blank mesh file. You're going to select all of this. And the reason why is because we do not want to overwrite the original file. We don't want it to conflict. You're going to right click, clone, and then you're going to right click again, delete, save. Now you're going to go to Object Tools, Fix Integrity. You want to name this something particular, Hugo Brian AM. Update. Okay. Now we're going to click on the GMDC. We're going to copy the file name. Go back to GMDC, replace. And we're going to replace it with our creation. Brian Knight Sims Hugo, open. Yes, we want to replace it. And we want to put the name back where it was so it aligns with the rest. I don't think it's required, but it looks better to me. Fix TGI, commit, okay, save. You just made a mesh, but we're not done yet. We need the recolor. So exit out of here. Now I like to take my mesh and drop it right into my downloads folder. Documents, EA Games, Sims 2, downloads. So here's our mesh. Now, I would suggest that you create a new Sims file like I have here. I have multiple Sims 2 locations. So I play these individually with different mods, different custom content. The one I'm currently using is my vanilla folder, which only houses my personal creations, or defaults if I'm doing preview photos in game. I would highly suggest that you limit what you put into your vanilla folder so that BodyShop loads within seconds. Otherwise, if you're doing all this from your main account or your main Sims 2 folder with gigs and gigs of custom content, it's gonna try to load everything, so it's gonna take longer, and you may even think that your BodyShop's broken. And to do, I think I got sidetracked, but to create different files like that within the Sims 2, just rename this and then open the game. It'll generate a whole new folder for you. It won't have everything, obviously, like your camera mod, you'll have to add in there, any lighting mods. I do have the mod for the bigger BodyShop screen. I will link it below. They're amazing. Okay, we are back. Ready in action. So, I'm not even going to do anything with build sims. Create parts, start new project, create genetics. No, sorry, create clothing. I forgot what I was doing. Alright, so we need a male form. Ideally, I'm going to use my Okrui's, I'm sorry if I'm saying their name wrong, the layered top, because I know that one is what I have had no trouble with. Actually, I can use these because I know they're no blend. Okay, so I'm just going to take this top and export selected textures. And we're going to rename this to Hugo AM1. Import to game. Yes. We want the saved Sims option. Isn't this background cute? Check out Yakamsaki. I don't know if I'm saying their name right either. Okay, so we're in here. Now click 3D ID reference file. Let it load. Don't click anything. Let it load. This is actually where the mesh is housed. And we need to link our mesh to the 3D ID reference. Okay, so it's loaded. We can see that in the file editor. We're going to go to Tools, PGSE, Body Mesh Tool, Linking Stage. We're going to hit OK. And this is the original. We do not want that. Let's go to Documents. Go to our Downloads folder. EA Games. Sims 2 Ultimate Collection. Downloads. Let's scroll to find Hugo. Open. Okay. So normally where you would commit, you're not going to commit here. Now we're going to go to No Blend, which is the name of our clothing. And I'm going to build DXT. I'm literally just clicking like one more button. So once you've hit Build DXT, you're going to go to Open Image. You want to make sure that this is set for like DXT3 format, which it typically is always default to that. Okay, we're going to go to the Hugo, and I'm going to grab the PNG file here. I'm going to open that, preview, build. Yay! Now I'm going to commit, because if I don't commit, it'll revert back to the other top. So now it's committed. And what I also like to do at this point, you can go to text list and update your tooltip. I love tooltips. I think they're fantastic. It's easy to identify, especially when you name it the same as your file. So I can just do Hugo AM1. This is what people want. Commit file. You can sort basically what you want to look at. The 3D ID though and this texture are what's actually necessary to get your mesh and texture into BodyShop, and we can go over more of it later in a different video or something. Save. Let's open up BodyShop again. And now we've created our part, so let's go to Build Sims and just check out the hopefully final product. Clothing. Bum, there it is. We did it. Wow. Now I'm going to zoom in first and foremost on his face. Okay, so first things I'm noticing. Let me change my background. First things I'm noticing. That seam is weird. That's nothing that we did. Okay, first things I'm noticing, his neck is kind of sticking out right here and right here. You can see where it kind of clips in to his, you can see that. Some of the stuff might be easier to see in creative sim mode. I like to make sure that his neck kind of aligns with his top neck. And same with back here. This looks okay. I'm not going to stress about that because it matches both sides, you know. But that right there kind of bothers me just because it looks like it's going through his skin. But you could kind of say it goes around it. Now, one thing too, there's also this part. You could always put in a back face. But overall, this looks good. I mean, if I'm going to bring it out, oh my god, those pants. I'm changing his pants. There you go. So remember, we don't have any morphs. This is just the base, but this looks good. And you know what? I think what I want to do too, you see it down here. I wish I could zoom in a little bit better. It dips in, right? Like it goes underneath the pants. So we're gonna need to pull this bottom portion out where his, the arch of his back meets. So where the arch of his back, pull that out here. We can leave the front as is. I think it's okay to stick it out a little bit, but this looks good. I'm not going to go through how to make a perfect mesh per se, like adding back faces. It's really easy. I will go over it in another video. So again, what I like to do is I've got it. I'm going to go and take it up from the arch of the back, so about right here. I've got my select option, and I'm only going to go to the middle. I'm not going to move the middle seam. So I've selected my vertices right here, all the way down to the bottom, and I'm just going to slowly but surely bring it out. And I'm going to deselect the top, bring that out. It doesn't look bad. It's got like a little, like a, you know, bit of a curve. We can fix that part right here. But this is good. This it brings out just enough. You see how it kind of clips in right there? That's where it was clipping into the skin. I'm going to do one click. Yeah, I'm just going to select these three. It's around where the issue is, right? That's where it was clipping. I'm going to go ahead and scale this, and I'm going to go out one. I'm going to go to the left and right. Scale. One more scale. Yeah, that's just going to bring it out just a little bit so it's not pinching his neck. I think that's all I had issues with. So let's go ahead, file, export. I'm going to overwrite my file here. So I'm going to go back to my downloads folder. I'm going to open up the mesh back in SimPE. Okay. Now we don't need to go through that whole process. Again, we're going to click on this. I'm going to copy the name. We're going to replace. I'm going to take the updated GMDC file, open it. Yes, I want to replace. Put the name back. I hit fix TGI, commit, okay, save. Our mesh is now updated. Since we've linked this mesh to the recolor, our recolor should be updated as well. Okay, it comes out more, that's good. We may need to bring it out even a little bit more. No, it doesn't clip anymore. You can fix it. You can finagle with it all day if you want. I probably won't. I probably will myself. I'm not going to release this right away. But the rest of it looks good. Today. Boop, it's got glasses. Okay, we have a mesh that I am satisfied with for training purposes. Quit. And then on the next videos, I will show you how to create morphs as well as converting to other ages, and then we'll explore more from there. I hope you liked the video if I ever post it. And yeah, please feel free to share and leave any comments or concerns below, and I will respond accordingly. Don't be rude, be nice, you know? Anyway, have a great day.